A very bright morning to all. I, Miss Anga, on behalf of Principal, Vice Principal and staff of Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur, would like to welcome you all for AICTE-sponsored FDP on Nutrigenomics Unveiled Frontier in Healthcare, organized by Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. We are in day 4 of this program and I hope you all are extracting maximum out of it. Now we will start with our first session. I would like to request Ms. Yasin Momi ma'am to introduce our guest speaker Dr. Sachin Agwani sir. Over to you ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Myself, Yasmin Momin. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our today's guest speaker, Dr. Sachin Agawne, sir. Sir has completed Masters in Veterinary Science from Bombay Veterinary College, Mumbai. He has completed his PhD in Biotechnology from Savitribai Phule Pune University, Pune. Currently, he is working as a principal scientist at CSIR National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. He has worked as scientist at CSIR Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad. He has also worked as assistant manager in Venkateshwara Hatcheries Poultry Diagnosis and the Research Laboratory, Hyderabad. He has also worked as veterinary officer at Raj Biotech Wing, Satara. He has total 50 publications. He has filed total 6 patents. He has total 16 years of experience. He also handled more than 25 industrial projects. His total citation score is 874. His H index is 17 and I-10 index is 22. More than 25 conferences he has been attended. Presently, he is guiding 4 PhD scholars and he has been guided more than 15 MPharm and MSc students also. About his achievement, Sir has established NCL IISER Animal Unit as well as Central Laboratory Animal House Facility of CSIR IICT at Hyderabad. He also established Pathology Lab at Poultry Diagnostic and the Research Center at Hyderabad. He is selected as the CPC-SCA nominee by the Government of India and working as a CPC-SCA nominee at various government and the private research institutes. So with this brief introduction, I would like to request Dr. Sachin Agawne sir, please start your session. Please sir.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin Momin madam, for nice introduction. I am thankful to Dr. Tamboli sir and all staff of your college for inviting me for this nice and important training and workshop. So now I will start with my slides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a minute.
Oh, yes, sir.
Whether my slides are visible?
No, sir.
Can you see the screen?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Reshare again.
Now, whether slides are visible?
No, sir. Okay, sir. Firstly, open the slides and then go to share option. Okay, in a
That
background, you have to open the slides. Okay, make it a PowerPoint, and then you come back to the Microsoft Teams, and then
just a minute. Okay.
okay, now sir, your screen is visible.
Screen is visible.
Yes, yes.
Can you see the
Okay.
slides?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, full screen is visible in presentation mode.
Yes, yes, sir. You can continue, sir.
Whether it's moving?
Yes, yes, sir. It is moving.
Okay. First of all, I welcome you all, and my title of my topic is Importance of Nutraceutical in Drug Discovery and Human Health. So when we speak about the nutraceutical, then other topic like nutrigenomics, drug discovery, medical practices, immunity are very important as far as human health is concerned. So all these topics are interrelated. So how they are interrelated and how they are important for the human health, so that I am going to explain you in this presentation. So let's start with the nutrigenomics. So you must be having heavy dose of the nutrigenomics throughout this training and workshop. But I will tell you in brief what is meant by nutrigenomics and what is relevance of nutrigenomics with the human health and drug discovery aspect. So nutrigenomics is establishing the effect of ingested nutrient and other food component on gene expression and gene regulation. It will also determine the individual nutritional requirement based on genetic makeup of the person as well as the association between diet and chronic diseases. Improper diet are risk factor for the diseases. Dietary chemicals alters gene expression and it also changes the genome structure. The degree to which diet influences the balance between healthy and disease states may depend upon the individual genetic makeup. So nutrigenomics is related to the many diseases like cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, obesity, hypertension and many more. So let's take the example of the cancer. So earlier studies showed that the deficiency of the micronutrients such as folic acid, vitamin B12, B6, C, E, zinc, then selenium can cause the changes into the DNA similar to the changes happens because of the radiation exposure. Damage to the cell because of radiation. This alteration can lead to the rupture of DNA structure. It may cause the oxidative lesions or both. And it is very much related to the development of the cancer. But there is some protective mechanism. So various minerals work as a protector against the cancer. Like selenium stimulate the production of glutathione peroxidase to reduce the hydrogen peroxide and it maintain the cell integrity. So I would like to tell you that when we speak about the disease, then important part is oxidative stress. Oxidative stress plays an important role in formation or production of the many diseases. It acts as a predisposing factor for generation of the many diseases. So this oxidative stress decreases the immunity and because of this that lesions may go up to the higher level. So oxidative stress may lead to the cancer, it may lead to the diabetes, it may lead to the urolithiasis, inflammation and many more diseases. So what is mean by oxidative stress? So oxidative stress occurs when there is imbalance between the cell hemostasis, normal hemostasis of the cell, and there is increase in the free radical and decrease in the antioxidants. Which are those free radicals? So free radical cell injury causes damage to the DNA and other cell organelles. So free radicals like hydroxyl radical, superoxide, hydrogen peroxide, peroxyl radical, singlet oxygen, this free radical causes the free radical cell injury and it develops the oxidative stress. So what is the mode of action of these free radicals? So they causes the lipid peroxidation, they also damage the DNA, then protein oxidation, and it also causes the inactivation of the enzymes. But our body is always having some mechanism to fight with these free radicals, and it with the help of antioxidants available into the food, we can fight with this free radical and we can fight with the diseases. So natural antioxidants like vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, vitamins like vitamin A, C, E, K, minerals like zinc, selenium, amino acids like methionine, cysteine, enzymes like superoxide, dismutase, we can fight with this free radical and we can bring our normal hemostasis back to the good level. So by touching this topic, what are the importance of the nutrigenomics or what we learn from the nutrigenomics? So nutrigenomics increased the focus on healthy diet and lifestyle that I am going to explain you in further slides, how it acts or what is the role of nutraceutical as per at nutrigenomics and human health is concerned. Nutrigenomics increased awareness of the risk of the certain conditions. It helps in improved health quality and quantity of the life. It focuses on the prevention of the diseases. It has decreased the morbidity and premature mortality also. It reduces the healthcare cost and there is better understanding of the mechanisms involved in the disease susceptibility. So let's speak about the nutraceuticals. Somebody has told that let food be your medicine. So what is meant by nutraceuticals? It is any non-toxic food component that has scientifically proven health benefits, including disease treatment and disease prevention. I am audible, no? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So it's going properly, no?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So nutraceutical mainly consist of nutrients like vitamin, minerals, I have already mentioned, amino acid, fatty acids, then phytochemicals present in the Ayurvedic plants, they are also acting as a nutraceutical. Then dietary supplements like probiotic, prebiotic, antioxidants and enzymes comes under the nutraceuticals. What are the sources of nutraceuticals? So there are so many plants, there are various plants, fruits, leaves, roots, they are the source of the nutraceuticals. Then animal source, for example, shark liver oil, cod liver oil. Then minerals like calcium, magnesium, phosphorus and many more. Some microorganism like lactobacillus also acts as nutraceutical. So what is the importance of some minerals when we speak about the nutraceuticals? So take few examples like calcium. Calcium is essential for bone formation. It is also important for teeth, then for maintaining the bone strength, nerves, muscle, glandular function. It is also important for the blood clotting. Then iron is important for the energy production, hemoglobin production, oxygen transport. Then magnesium is important for the health of the nerves, muscles and bone formation. Phosphorus is important for the energy production, phosphorylation process, again for the bone formation, teeth formation and for the maintenance of the genetic material. Let's take some examples of the vitamins like vitamin C. All vitamins are important for our body. Like vitamin C can act as antioxidant and it helps in the wound healing. Vitamin B1 helps in the carbohydrate metabolism. B2 is important for the maintenance of the good health of the eyes, skin and nerves. B3 is important for the energy metabolism and brain function. I am audible, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we speak about the nutrigenomics, nutraceuticals, free radicals, cell injury, oxidative stress, then immunity, we should speak about the immunity. Immunity is very, very important part. Let's take example of the COVID-19. In COVID-19, what suggestions, what advice doctors give to the patients? Doctor used to tell that after going to the home or after discharge from the hospital or even during the treatment, he used to tell to the patient that take lot of non-veg, eat lot of non-veg like chicken, mutton, eggs, take healthy food. Why he is telling like this? This is for the our immunity power. He want to boost our immunity power so that we can fight with the COVID-19 or any other virus diseases, or even in case of the, it helps, our immunity helps to fight against infection due to the bacteria, parasite, viruses. So mainly there are two types of the immunity. One is cell mediated immunity. When we speak cell mediated immunity is innate immunity. It is present in our body by birth. Cells like T cells, macrophages, they are important to fight with the antigen and they kill them and they remove the antigen from our body with the help of phagocytosis. Then antibody mediated immunity. It occurs mainly because of antibodies, like we get antibodies in our body after the vaccination. Both the immunities like cell mediated immunity and antibody mediated immunity are important, but cell mediated immunity is very, very important. So about nutraceuticals, vegetables, fruits, whole grain, herbs, nuts, seeds, they contains abundance of the nutrients, phenolic compounds, primary metabolites, secondary metabolites, and they protects our body from the disease condition. There are so many examples of the drugs or medicines currently available in the market and they are originated from the plant or herbal medicine. Here are few examples like caffeine, camphor, curcumin, anti-cancer drugs like thymol, vinblastine, vincristine, taxol. So they are originated from the plant source. So what I want to tell you that we have a lot of scope to develop the Ayurvedic medicine. And when we speak about the Ayurvedic medicine, then India is the hub of medicinal plants. India can do better as far as plant-based medicine is concerned. So little about the Ayurveda. So you must be aware that long before the birth of orthodox Western medicine, that is allopathic medicine, our Ayurvedic medicine system is in practice. Herbal medicine system are sometime or many times underestimated by saying that it is unsystematic, inappropriate, and we are not taking care properly or we are not following the scientific guideline during the developing the Ayurvedic product. But that is not the case. Ayurvedic philosophy moves around three important factors like Kapha, Pitta and Vata. So this Vata vritti is nothing but the oxidative stress. As I told you, oxidative stress is main culprit of many diseases. So this oxidative stress causes the development of the many diseases. So I will explain you in further slide how this is important. Yes, definitely there is need of doing systematic study, proper research about the Ayurvedic medicine. There is need of systematic, scientific, appropriate and reliable study approach to develop the Ayurvedic medicine. And company like Himalaya, Patanjali, Dabur and many more, they are example like they are well sustained into the market and they are doing well as far as human health is concerned. So our Ayurvedic system is very, very good. It is economical. If we take the Ayurvedic medicine, it has less side effect and it has good effect on the diseases. I am audible, no? Hello? Hello? Somebody please.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So I will.
Yes, sir.
So I will ask this question in between because I don't want to miss any slide. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So as far as WHO is concerned, WHO said that global market value for herbal industry is expected to be reached by US $5 trillion in 2050. The global market growth for this industry is expected to be 7% per annum in next 50 years. And worldwide about 9,000 species are being used in herbal medicine industry and India is repository of more than 7,500 medicinal plants. So India has great scope to develop the Ayurvedic medicine. So let's come to the research related to the plant-based medicine or Ayurveda. So I would like to give some example of the research or research experiment conducted, then output of that research experiment in the form of the research paper publication in high impact factor journal and its patent. So this is the example of our one experiment that we studied some fruit juices or vegetable juices for anti-diabetic activity. And we published in high impact factor journal like Food and Function. It is Journal of Royal Society of Chemistry. In this experiment, we studied the vegetable juice from the like dodka, dudhi bhopla, kohla, padwal, kakdi, brinjal, chauchau. So we studied these juices from this vegetable and we got very good results in vitro experiment and in vivo experiment, that is in animal study. And we could able to publish it in journal like Food and Function. And this photograph you can see. So this photographs is or this experiment or this paper is appeared as a cover page article on the cover page of this journal. So you can feel the importance of this study and how we have gone up to the higher level by doing this experiment of the vegetable juices. So there are many more examples like we have studied the mentha arvensis for its anti-diabetic activity and we published in Elsevier journals, Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine. One more study we have published in this journal, that is we studied the Duranta erecta for the treatment of urolithiasis. Urolithiasis means kidney stone. Then here is the example of the curcumin and we published this work in RSC Advances Journal. Then we also studied the sericin for its wound healing activity. So sericin is a natural product and it is extracted from the cocoons, and we studied its activity on the wound healing, and we published it in Pharmacognosy magazine journal, and we also have patent of this work. So I want to tell you that when we speak about the good quality research, good quality work, and we have aim of publishing in it high impact factor journal, or if we want to go for the patent or commercialization of this product, then we should do the systematic research, or our work should be the systematic, scientific and properly. How we can do that so that our Ayurvedic medicine system will not be underestimated by allopathic system? So what is the way? So before that, before starting the experiment, we should study lot of literature. We should go to the lot of literature and we should try to understand the articles available and what are the reported material, what are the non-reported material. Let's have some example of the diseases. If we are targeting disease like diabetes, cancer, or whatever it is, so before doing experiment, it may be allopathic compound or Ayurvedic compound. If we want to study its effect on the diseases, first we try to understand the molecular mechanism of the diseases. We should try to understand that disease thoroughly. So here I would like to give one example. Let's have one example and let's think how we can do the research as far as drug discovery is concerned. So in my title, drug discovery is also an important part. So I will try to explain you how we can do the research as far as drug discovery is concerned. So let's have the example of this diabetes mellitus. I would like to ask you, what is meant by this word diabetes? So any one of you can give the answer. It may be, don't worry that answer, if answer is wrong, no problem, but you try to speak. So somebody should give the answer. What is meant by this word diabetes? Please. What idea you have about the diabetes? Anyone? Kamboli sir?
Hello. Shall I tell?
Yes. Anyone,
Diabetes,
any
diabetes
student,
is
any
a state-
faculty, anybody.
Yes. Diabetes is nothing but a state in which the blood sugar level is very high.
Yes. I would like to know your good name, please.
Myself, Yasmin Momin. I'm the faculty.
Okay. Thank you. So, Yasmin madam, so you told that there is in diabetes there is increase in blood glucose level, right?
Yes, sir.
So actually, yes, this is a good answer, but not up to the mark. I can tell you how. Because if there is increase in blood glucose level, it is called as hyperglycemia. Okay. And decrease in blood glucose level, it's called as hypoglycemia. Somebody will tell me that there is increase or decrease in the blood insulin levels. So increase in blood is, yes, tell me.
Sir, it means that is honey, the word.
Honey.
Honey.
So who is giving this answer? Your good name,
Dr.
please.
Nitya. Dr. Nitya.
Oh, thank you. So thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Nitya madam, because I want the audience like this. Don't worry about whether answer is correct or wrong, but you should speak. You should try to give stress to your brain. So yes, okay, you told about the honey, but yes, I am going to explain you what is mean of this word diabetes. So I was talking about the insulin. Some in many forum I used to get answer that diabetes is related to the increase in uh, blood glucose level or decrease in the insulin level. So decrease in insulin blood insulin level is called as hypoinsulinemia. Increase in blood insulin level is called as hyperinsulinemia. Let's talk about the glucose. Increase in blood glucose level, it's called as hyperglycemia. Decrease in blood glucose level is called as hypoglycemia. So what is meaning of this word diabetes? So I am going to explain you. So this word, if we break, this word is actually Greek word, and if we break into the two part like di and betis, so di means poly, okay, and betis means flow. So here is poly means two or more than two. That means frequently. So there is frequently flow of something. So in case of diabetes, what is the frequent flow? That is of urine. That is called as excessive urination, frequent urination. So that means it is polyuria. So meaning of this word diabetes is just simply it's mean polyuria. Okay. And when we speak about the mellitus, means diabetes mellitus. So mellitus means sweet. So you told about honey. So it is very much correct answer as far as mellitus is concerned. Okay. And what happens in the diabetes? Yes. So what is the pathophysiology of the diabetes? So pathophysiology, in case of pathophysiology, there is increase in blood glucose level. Okay. So when there is anything increase in our body, so our kidney try to excrete it through the urine. Okay. So in case of diabetes, kidney tries to excrete the glucose through the urination. Okay. So glucose is there in the urine, and if we taste the urine, it gives the sweet taste. That is sweet. So what is Sanskrit, Hindi and Marathi word for this diabetes? It is madhumeha. Madhu means sweet, meha means pravaha, means flow. That is betis. Okay. So why madhumeha? Why sweet? Because glucose gives the sweetness, and glucose present in the urine. That's why it is called as madhumeha. So you can see picture of this Vista rat. You can see two photographs here. One is normal rats and one is diabetic rat. So normal rats hairs and skin is very much normal, but at right hand side this is a diabetic rat, and because of high urination, polyuria, skin and hair of the rat is become moist, watery and ruffled. So what happens in diabetic patients? There is frequent urination. So there are two type of diabetes. One is type 1 diabetes, and second, please somebody gives this answer. One is there are so many types, but important
Type 2 gestation
Yes.
diabetes.
Yes. Any other?
MODI, that is
Yes.
young onset of young diabetes.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. You have given very good answer. So we are focusing on mainly two parts of the diabetes. One is type 1 diabetes and second is type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes means postprandial hyperglycemia. Okay. So what is difference? So type 1 diabetes is insulin dependent diabetes, and second is insulin non-dependent diabetes. Means insulin level of the body is totally normal, but still diabetes is there. Still hyperglycemia is there. Still there is increase in blood glucose level. Why? There is some other pathophysiology behind this, and that mainly occurs in the Indian population. So I am going to why I am telling is that initially I told you that if we want to do the drug discovery research, if so further, before that, we should try to understand the disease properly. So that is the reason we have taken this example of the diabetes, and we are trying to understand this disease properly so that we can find out the drugs to take care of this diabetes. So I would like to explain you in another way this type 2 diabetes. Okay, so I told you that type 1 diabetes is mostly occurs in the Western countries people, and type 2 diabetes is problem of the Asian population, that India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and many more Asian countries. So why this is occurring? So you must be aware that there are various breeds of the dogs, buffaloes, cows. So let's have some breeds of the dogs like German Shepherd, Cocker Spaniel, Pug, Labrador. So these are the breeds of the dogs. There are some various breeds of the buffaloes like Nagpuri buffalo, Muraha buffalo, Mehsana, Jafarabadi, etc. There are so many breeds of the cows. There are so many breeds of the camel, horses, poultry. So like this, we have so many breeds of the human being also. Can you give some example, anyone? What are the various breeds of the human being? Yasmin madam or any other faculty can give. Your answer may be wrong, no problem, but try to speak. Just guess. Tamboli sir?
Sir, yes, sir.
Can you guess various breeds of the human being?
Human being.
Yes. Or any of the faculty can give this answer, no problem.
Sir, Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Africans.
Africans, yes, very good. Yes. Okay. So I will give this answer. Please mute your mic, please. So these are the various breeds of the human being, like Caucasian, Negroid, that Negroes, Capoid, Mongoloid, Australoid, and Asian. So I told you that type 1 diabetes is the problem of Western countries people because of their different breed, and type 2 diabetes is the problem of Asian population. And you must be aware that diabetes can cause the further complications like retinopathy, nephropathy, cardiovascular diseases, and neuropathy. So we should have clear-cut idea about type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, and of course there is treatment aspect is different for different type of diabetes. So for type 1 diabetes, yes, it is insulin dependent diabetes. So insulin plays an important role, and we can do the research on the insulin. Or we can do the research like metformin. And for the type 2 diabetes, this acarbose, miglitol, they plays an important role. But these are the allopathic product, synthetic product. And you know that allopathic drugs has lot of side effect and toxicity. So let's have example of the toxicity from the metformin. So metformin causes the lactic acidosis, abdominal pain, respiratory distress, bradyarrhythmia, ketonuria, and renal failure. And acarbose causes side effect like severe itching, stomach pain, constipation, diarrhea, etc. So that is the reason we can focus on the plant-based medicine to avoid the side effect. So now you might have got the idea that before starting the drug discovery research, we should have clear-cut idea about the disease. So I have given the example of the diabetes, but we should study the diseases like cancer, arthritis, and many more, if we are aiming for the drug discovery for these diseases. So when we speak about the drug discovery, so drug discovery is always teamwork. New drugs cannot be introduced in the clinical practices unless it passes the test in laboratory animals. So laboratory animals, that is in vivo experiment, plays a very important role as far as drug discovery is concerned. So I was talking about the plant-based medicine and systematic scientific reliable study approach for the plant-based medicine research. So what is mean by systematic way or scientific way? So I am going to explain it. So suppose if we want to study some plant material for treatment of the any disease, then first up, so the way is not like that we have gone to somewhere on mountain for the trekking and we saw some plants and we collected that plant and started research on that, or we went for the jogging and we saw some plants at the roadside and we collected it and brought it to the our laboratory and started doing research on. So this is not the way. So before that we should study the literature. We should know that what is the reported medicinal plant, what for they are reported, and what are the non-reported medicinal plant, and we should give preference to the non-reported plants. Suppose we collect the plant from some source, then what is the way for the further research? So first we should make the herbarium. You can see in the photographs, so these are some plants we have done the study on that and got the output in the form of patent and publication. So we should collect that plant, we should make the herbarium, we should write all the information regarding the source of the plant, day of collection, time of collection, how we have collected on this herbarium, and we should submit it to the Botanical Survey of India for the authentication. How we can decide that, say for example, if we want to do the research on the Mentha arvensis or Duranta erecta, so who will tell us that yes, this plant is Mentha arvensis only or Duranta erecta only? So for that we should have to have some scientific authentication. So this is the Institute Botanical Survey of India. This branch is present in the Koregaon Park, Pune. So we can submit our herbarium to this institute and we can get authentication from this institute. So here are some examples. So this institute gives the certificate. So we were submitted some plants and they gives the code number also, and they gives the name of the plant like Adathoda vasica, Centellia asiatica, Mentha arvensis. And once we get the certificate, then there is justified authentication for that plant, and then we can start the further research. So let's take example that we have collected the plant and we want to study on the leaves of that plant. So what is the further approach? So we should collect the leaves and we should do the drying. So can we do the drying under the sunlight? Please give the answer, please.
No, sir. No.
Why?
Maybe some pigments can be lost.
Yes. So pigment, nutrients, nutraceuticals. We are talking about nutraceuticals here. So sunlight or ultraviolet rays can inactivate some nutraceuticals present in that plant. So we should go for the shade drying, and after proper drying of that plant leaves, then we should make the powder and we can do the extraction of this plant leaves powder. So this is the separatory. This is good way of doing the extraction, separatory funnel. So I have done so many extraction by using the separatory funnel. So we can use various solvent for the extraction. Can somebody give the example, please? Which solvent we can use for the extraction?
Methanol.
Yes. Any other?
Ethanol also can be used.
Yes, yes, yes. Methanol, ethanol, chloroform. But methanol is always good because please mute your mic. So methanol is always good because methanol extract all the polar and non-polar compounds. Okay. So we can do the extraction with the help of methanol. Then we can do the rotaevaporation for evaporation of the solvent. And then we can collect this extract into the RB flask and we can store it in minus 20 degrees Celsius temperature before doing the further analysis. If we see, this is now in this RB flask whole extract is there. So we can study this whole extract as a medicine against the disease. If we want to go for its fractionation, we can do it. But before that, we should study the whole extract. Say for example, anti-cancer activity. So we can study this whole extract against the cancer, and if that extract is giving good activity, then we can go for the further fractionation to understand which are the molecules or which are the compounds present in that extract and because of what that anti-cancer activity is there. So that for that we can run the column. So we can go for the column chromatography. So this picture is from our lab. Column chromatography we can do, and then we can go here for the fractionation. So these are the fractions of mentha plant which I have done for anti-diabetic activity. And then we can study the compounds by GCMS analysis, then by LCMS analysis, and then we can go ahead for the in vitro studies. So in vitro studies, first we should target the phytochemicals present in this plant. So phytochemicals like protein, carbohydrates, phenols, tannin, flavonoid, terpenoid, saponin. So these primary and secondary metabolites plays an important role to counter this disease. So when we speak about the I told that oxidative stress is very important factor. It is first step to counter. So if our plant medicine is, if we are studying the anti-cancer activity of our plant, then first we should try the antioxidant activity of that plant material. Because if our plant material is having antioxidant activity, so it can give better anti-cancer activity after antioxidant activity. So how we can do this antioxidant activity? By carrying this experiment DPPH free radical scavenging activity. Then some other experiment we can try for the diabetes model. So in vitro we can study the BSA fluorescence assay. Then for type 1 diabetes we can target some in vitro studies like glucose utilization assays, insulin secretion assays. As I told you that we should have clear-cut idea on what type of disease we are working, whether type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes. If we are targeting type 1 diabetes, then in vitro study assays are different. For type 2 diabetes, we can target this amylase enzyme and glucosidase enzyme. Alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase enzymes present on the brush border of the intestine. And as I told you, in Asian population or in Indian population, we have type 2 diabetes. Why? Because we Indians eat more carbohydrates, more fibers, more starch through our food, and these enzymes, they causes degradation of the starch into the glucose. And when glucose is increased into the body, it enters into the blood, and there is hyperglycemia. That is type 2 diabetes, that is also called as postprandial hyperglycemia. What is meant by postprandial hyperglycemia? If we go to the doctor for diabetes, doctor will ask you to do the blood test for the glucose. And there are 2 times we should do the blood test. So can somebody tell me when what are those 2 times we should do the blood
Yes, sir.
test?
Yes, sir. At fasting and another one is postprandial. That is after
Yes.
meal, before meal.
Yes, exactly. So this fasting blood glucose level is nothing but to test the type 1 diabetes, that is insulin dependent diabetes. And type 2 diabetes. So after food, hello. Hello. So type 2 diabetes is mostly because of the postprandial hyperglycemia. This after taking food, what happens with that food? That alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase enzyme causes degradation of the starch present in that food and blood glucose level goes high. So that is type 2 diabetes mainly occurs in the Indian population, and you must be aware that India is world capital of diabetes. And nowadays India is progressing towards becoming the world capital of depression also. So in this scenario, our role, our part as a researcher are very, very important. Our role as a pharmacologist is very, very important. So we have spoken about the in vitro study. So what is the next step? So if we got good results about our compounds or plant medicine in vitro assays, then we can take those medicine further for the animal experiment, that is in vivo experiments. So in vivo experiment, like for type 1 diabetes, model is different, animal model is different. For type 2 diabetes, animal model is different. For type 1 diabetes, it is STZ induced diabetes. For type 2 diabetes, starch induced postprandial hyperglycemia is the model. And we can study prophylactic effect of that plant-based medicine, or we can study the therapeutic effect also. Of course, we should use the standard drugs for the control, like metformin, acarbose. But before doing animal experiment, we should take the permission from the Institutional Animal Ethical Committee. You must be aware that before conducting any animal experiment, we should have to have permission from the IEC. Suppose if you want to do the animal experiment in your animal house of your college, then you must be having the Institutional Animal Ethical Committee, and we should get approval from the Institutional Animal Ethical Committee, and then we can go ahead for the animal experiment. So which are those laboratory animals are being used in the biomedical research? So I will give some examples. So you give this answer. Which is this animal? Anyone, please? Please unmute yourself and give this answer. So which is this animal? Can you see the animal slide?
Vista rat.
Yes, very good. So this is Vista rat. Which is this animal?
New Zealand rabbit.
Very good. This is rabbit.
Guinea pig. Guinea pig.
Very good. This is guinea pig. This is
Monkey.
yes. Bonnet monkey. Which is this animal?
Hamster.
Very good. This is hamster. Which is this animal?
Dog.
Yes, very good. This is beagle dog.
Beagle dog, yeah.
Yeah. Which is this animal?
Goat.
Yes. This?
Horse.
Yes. This is?
Yes, zebra fish.
This is?
Chicken.
Yes, thank you. So now you can unmute yourself. So these are the animal model we can use in the biomedical research. And after doing the animal experiment, we should go ahead for if we get good results after animal experiment, we can think for the patent. Before thinking the publication, we should think for the patent, because if we publish it before doing the patent, then it comes into the public domain and then we can miss our patent rights. So we should think about the patent and then the publications. So is this end of the story? No, of course no, because whatever we have spoken till now, it was about the efficacy of the plant material or plant medicine or that drugs or that compound. But what about the toxicity? Say for example, if our formulation is effective against the diabetes or cancer, but we should also study that formulation for its toxicity effect, because if our plant material or our formulation is having efficacy but it is having toxicity, then it is of no use. So we should go for the toxicological studies also. So there is no single drugs available in the market which is having 100% efficacy and 0% toxicity. So we should have to have the balance between efficacy and toxicity. And that is the reason we should do this toxicity study in the animals. Like there are various type of toxicity studies like acute oral toxicity study, subacute toxicity study, chronic toxicity study. And we should study this parameter in animal experiment like body weights of the animal, feed consumption, symptoms, morbidity, mortality, hematological studies like hemoglobin, neutrophils, MCV, PCV, then serological tests like serum albumin, serum globulin, and many more. Then we should go for the gross pathological study and histopathological study. Gross pathology means necropsy study, that is post-mortem examination. We should cut open the body of the animal and we can study various organs like lung, liver, kidney, spleen, heart, thymus, intestine, etc. Then after gross pathological examination, we should collect this organ into the 10% formalin for histopathological examination. And we can prepare the slides by histopathological process, and we can study those slides under microscope to see the effect of the formulation on drug at the cellular level or molecular level. So these are some histopathology slides of the liver, kidney, spleen, heart, lungs. Then after this animal experiment is called as preclinical trials. After preclinical trials, we should go for the clinical trials. So clinical trials are of various types like phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, phase 3 trial. And after doing all this experiment, we can bring our medicine or our formulation into the market for commercialization. So coming to the summary, so this is the way of doing the research. When we speak about the human health, this was the second slide which I have shown you earlier. So again I have kept this slide into the summary. So when we speak about the scientific way of doing research, systematic way of doing research, when we talk about the human health, then aspects like the drug discovery, medical practices, immunity, nutraceutical, nutrigenomics, they are interrelated and they plays an important role, and we should study it properly before starting our research. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience, and if you have any question, I will happy to answer it.
Thank you so much, sir,
Sir,
for
I
your
have a
valuable
question,
questions.
sir.
Dear participant, the session is open for discussion. Please unmute yourself and ask your question to the speaker. Or you can place your question in the chat box.
Sir, good morning, sir. This is Dr. Vaishali Undare.
Yes. Nice to see you, Undale madam. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, I have a query regarding the starch-induced postprandial hyperglycemia. Actually, I have not worked on it.
Okay.
And for type 1 diabetes, you suggested two models. One is the STZ induced and one is the starch induced. So, in a diabetes, particularly the postprandial glucose, what we see. But fasting, what is the effect of the starch induced on the fasting blood glucose level? Whether is any remarkable changes there, or we'll need to study that also aspect.
Yes. Actually, I can say that type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes both are interrelated. Okay. We can see type 1 diabetes also in Indian population. But for that, then targets are different. Like we should study the insulin model. Okay, type 1 diabetes is insulin dependent diabetes. So if we get higher fasting blood glucose level, then we can do the experiment. As far as preclinical trials are concerned, we can use this Alexon induced diabetes model or STZ induced diabetes model. Why? Because what STZ causes? STZ damages to the uh, beta cells of pancreas, and then there is decrease in the insulin level, and blood glucose level goes high because of decrease in insulin. So we can study the blood insulin level and blood glucose level if we are targeting the type 1 diabetes, that is fasting blood glucose level.
Okay, but sir, in case of starch induced, like whether the effect is there on the fasting also, because this here in the model it is mentioned as particularly the postprandial hyperglycemia. So whether
Yes.
the starch induced has any effect even on the fasting. So while
Typically
performing
speaking,
experiment on the animal, we should not miss even that parameter.
yeah. So typically speaking, yes. So typically speaking, if we talk about the type 2 diabetes model, it is mainly depends upon our diet and our food habits, and these two enzymes like alpha amylase enzyme and alpha glucose enzyme. So we can do this study. Okay. So what study we can do is that we can, in this scenario, we can collect the blood before fasting and after fasting, and we should study these enzymes at molecular level, and then we can differentiate whether it is because of type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Yes, sir. I would like to ask question. That is, are any in vitro assay of Alzheimer disease?
Alzheimer disease.
Yes.
Alzheimer disease, in lab we can perform like that tau protein. You must be aware that tau protein. Hello.
No, sir.
Yeah. There are some in vitro model, because that is not my research area, but I came across that there are some in vitro models are available for this Alzheimer disease also. Like we can target some tau protein and all, and then we can study in our lab, and then we can think about the animal experiment.
And sir, what is better, ex vivo, in vivo, or in vitro?
Yeah, so this is I can say something like vague question, but all are important. See, as I told you initially during my presentation, is drug discovery always teamwork. Okay, so all the like in vitro model, they are important. We cannot directly go to the animal model, otherwise it is institutional animal ethical committee will not give the permission. Okay, so we should study our drugs first in our lab to see its bioactivity, and if it is active, then and then only we can go for the animal study. Before in vitro study, we can do the in silico studies also, like bioinformatics studies. So we can get some information or some results from the bioinformatics study, artificial intelligence, in silico studies. Then we can go for the in vitro studies, then in vivo study, and then ex vivo study. So this should be the typical way of doing the uh, research as far as drug discovery is concerned.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. I just want to ask you that I had performed GCMS and LCMS of the formulation of my PhD work, but I am not satisfactory with the results. So can I can we make a collaboration for such type of research work with your institute or with your organization?
Yes, 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 of course. So see, science has no boundaries and we
Yes,
should
sir.
open to do the collaboration. Like it is teamwork. One single scientist or one single researcher cannot do anything. We should have to have collaboration and cross talk between us, and we can come to the common table and we can discuss the problem and we can decide our role and we can go ahead for the proper way of doing the research. Yes, so you can contact me. You
Yes,
can
sir.
send me an email so I can see how we can help you out.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
So we can go to the next step of this seminar.
Sir, is this necessary to always we have to perform in vitro studies before in vivo study?
Yes, yes, definitely. We should try in vitro study initially and then in
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Yasmin madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can we go to the next step of this
Yes, sir.
lecture?
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible? Yes, sir. It was nice presentation given by you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir has discussed about the impact of the oxidative stress on human body that leads to the cancer or the diabetes mellitus. He has discussed various terminology involved into the diabetes like hyperinsulinemia, hypoinsulinemia, hyperglycemia. He discussed about the complications of the diabetes, then treatment of the diabetes. Sir has focused plant-based drug discovery process from authentication of the plants, extraction, isolation, then fractionation,
Hello,
interpretation by
hello,
the
hello, hello, Yasmin ma'am, please wait. Uh, Sachin sir,
Yes.
is it over our presentation or
Yes,
it
yes.
is?
I am done with the presentation. Yes.
Okay, it's all okay, ma'am. Please continue.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So as discussed about the plant-based drug discovery process, from authentication of the plants, then extraction, isolation by the column chromatography, then fractionation, interpretation by the pictorial presentation, sir. Even sir discussed about the various biological assay models, then toxicity studies, the importance of the patents before the publications, then pathology, histopathological studies, clinical trials, sir. So thank you very much, sir, for your guidance. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much from my side.
Hello, Sachin sir.
Yes.
Can you little bit discuss or tell me something about the patent and nutraceuticals? Can we go for that after successful, that is entire doing the research, or you can say that whatever that is fruitful results are obtained?
Yes, 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 yes. We can go ahead for the patenting of the nutraceutical. Okay. So before that, we should have the in prima facie we should study the literature and reports are available about the formulation or nutraceutical which we want to do the patent. Okay. So primary survey we should do, and if we get the idea that yes, this can be patentable or reports are not available, then we can patent office. Patent office used to contact the TKDL. Okay, so TKDL is the institute or agency is available in the Delhi. They do the thorough survey of this material which we want to do the patent, and they will tell us the ability of that material for the patent. So patent ability or chances to go ahead for the patent, TKDL can tell us. Then we can draft the patent and we can file it. That is primary filing, and then we can describe it in further steps. So before that we require lot of data actually. of that. And as I told you that we should have to have systematic way of the research, and then only we can go ahead for the patent. But we have several examples like patent of the plant-based medicine or nutraceuticals.
But very few are available, sir, on particularly if we see on particular nutraceuticals. If we think
Yes,
about
yes,
the
yes, but they are
nutraceuticals.
available. So
Okay.
basically, answer to your question is that yes, we can go ahead for the patenting as far as nutraceutical is concerned, but we should give the proper justification. What right we want to protect out of that nutraceutical?
Yes, because everyone is now aware about during this pandemic also what is importance of this plant materials or crude drugs. Simple. That's why that is even
Yes,
the
yes,
pharma R&D also migrated to the nutraceutical R&D because there is as
yes,
such no burden as we compare
yeah,
with the allopathy one. Okay,
yes,
so
yes, yes,
that's the reason. Okay, sir, it is a
yes,
very uh, yes, sir, please.
yes. So this area is having lot of scope. This nutraceutical.
Yes. So very nice and very precise and very informative session given by you, sir. Thank you very much on behalf of Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy. I really that is very thank you for giving your that is valuable time. Okay, to spare. Please
Thank you.
wait.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful presentation and valuable time. Now I request all the participants to turn on your camera so that we can have a photo with our eminent speaker. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We will take the break.
Thank you, Emil. So, Dr. Tambul, shall I leave the meeting now?
Yes, sir, you
Yes,
can
sir. Yes,
leave
sir,
the
you
meeting.
can.
Okay, so thank you
Thank
all.
you, sir.
Thank,
Thank you, sir.
thanks again. Okay. I will leave the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dear participants, shortly we'll start with our session, second session. Please be connected.